The Jedi Council was an important institution in the Old Republic. Sure, they weren't the Galactic Senate, but the Jedi were a highly respected group in the Republic, and so the say of the Jedi Council mattered. The Council was, however, rocked big time during the Clone Wars before its decimation through Order 66. This video is going to be all about the most important members that sat on the Council during the Clone Wars. The first character on our list today is none other than Kit Fisto. He was definitely one of the most likable people to be featured on this Council of super serious Jedi. The now Talon Jedi Master earned his seat on the Council through valiant leadership during the Clone Wars, and he really earned his stripes during the invasion of Mon Cala. That was basically the event that got him into the Council to begin with. As someone who had recent experience of the battlefield, Fisto was a little calmer than his peers and even had a sense of humor about the situation they were in. But there was no doubting Fisto's lightsaber credentials, and that was the reason why Mace Windu took Fisto with him to try and cleave the sheath. Unfortunately, his bold effort against Palpatine could only take him so far, and he was killed on that mission. Speaking of Palpatine, we'll now look at Anakin Skywalker, his future right hand. The man who is destined to bring balance to the Force didn't achieve his destiny through the Jedi Council, but that doesn't mean his involvement is to be underestimated. Obi-Wan trained him well, and he was one of the most fearsome fighters the Jedi had to offer. Even though Anakin was only appointed to the Council on Palpatine's request, he did prove his worth to the Council despite being its youngest member. His most significant act on the Council was, of course, altering them to the fact that Senator Palpatine was in fact the mysterious Darth Sidious. That was something even the more seasoned members of the Council failed to see. Of course, Anakin's wisdom there was undercut by his betrayal of the Jedi shortly after. Up next, we have Even Piell. Life on the battlefield can give you a grim sense of humor about things, and that was the case for Even Piell. Having lost an eye during his fights, Piell was a skilled warrior whose reputation preceded him throughout the galaxy. Despite being a Council member, he was brave enough to go on a mission to deliver secrets about hyperspace routes. Unfortunately, that mission got him captured by the Separatists. His life was valuable enough to the Jedi that Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka took a strike team to the heavily guarded Citadel to rescue Even. That mission went south though, and Piell was wounded by some Anubis. He was able to give the info to Ahsoka before he died, showing that even in his final moments, he was singularly committed to completing his mission. From there, we move on to Shaak Ti, a member of the Council right before the Clone Wars started. You could almost say that she was one of the very first casualties of the war. Shaak Ti spent most of her time on Kamino, where she was in charge of the creation and training of the clone soldiers. Where Grievous's Separatists attacked the planet, she played a vital role in defending it. Now, we all know that those clones had a deadly secret in their brains. They were all outfitted with inhibitor chips that would activate when the Order 66 command was given, and the chips would force them to start killing Jedi. Well, during Shaak Ti's stay on Kamino, one of the clones malfunctioned and killed his Jedi commander. Pretty fishy, eh? Well, Shaak Ti's investigation got pretty darn close to uncovering the truth behind the inhibitor chips, but was unfortunately cut short. Still, Ti and Anakin suspected something, even as the Chancellor made excuses for what was going on. We'd say that nearly unraveling Palpatine's entire scheme is worth a spot on this list, and that's just the most notable moment from Shaak Ti's career on the Council. Alas, she was ironically killed by the very Order 66 that she nearly uncovered back on Kamino. We'll now look at Ki-Adi-Mundi, a major character. His credentials for joining the Jedi Council are so legit. He was admitted to the Council while still a Jedi Knight. Few people can claim that honor, Anakin Skywalker being among them. A big reason for why Mundi was given a seat on the Council was his binary brain, which allowed him to reach a level of intelligence that few races could match. It also gave him a massive ego, which isn't unusual for the Jedi Council. Ironically, considering his intelligence, he spent most of his time on the Jedi Council being wrong about a whole bunch of things. He denied Qui-Gon Jinn's request to train a young Anakin Skywalker because Annie was too old and had too much fear in him. Later, when Padme tried to warn the Council about Count Dooku, Mundi dismissed her concerns by saying that he was just a political idealist. In the Clone Wars series, he stripped Ahsoka of her Padawan status as she was falsely accused of attacking the Jedi Temple. For what it's worth though, Mundi wasn't a background leader at all. He graduated straight from Jedi Knight to Jedi Council Council after all, so he wasn't afraid in the slightest to get into the battlefield. From the movies, to the shows, to the books and comics, you'll find Ki-Adi-Mundi in many battles. Although inevitably he died when Order 66 was issued to the clone troopers under his command. Moving on, our next character today is Depa Billaba. Being the Padawan of Mace Windu and surviving the experience is an achievement all its own, and Depa picked up some mad lightsaber skills because of it. She was both a member of the Jedi Council and a ground-level fighter, and during a battle on Harun Kal, she was injured badly enough to be temporarily replaced. Billaba did recover, of course, and later in her time on the Council, she took Caleb Doom as her Padawan. This move was more significant than you might realize, as she would go on to sacrifice her life to save Caleb from Order 66. Caleb Doom went into hiding and took on the name Kanan Jarrus. That's right, Depa Billaba is the one who trained one of the most important rebels in the entire Rebel Alliance. Jarrus would go on to find the Spectre cell of rebels, and the group would go on escalating missions that even saw them facing off against Darth Vader a couple of times. The rebellion might have gone very differently without Jarrus, aka Caleb, aka Padawan of Depa Billaba. From there, we'll move on to Plo Koon. What are the qualities you'd associate with a Jedi Master? Wise, definitely, and also great at fighting, but a Jedi should also be compassionate and selfless. You don't get too many Jedi that embody all of those traits, but Plo Koon was one of them. He was an ace pilot and a competent pilot, but he also cared a lot about his clone army. His most important contribution to the fate of the Star Wars universe was bringing a certain Ahsoka Tano to the Jedi Order. Tano would go on to do a lot of good for the universe, both as a Jedi and later as a rebel. Plo Koon wasn't just the one who recruited her, but he also defended her against the false accusations of attacking the Jedi Temple, which was, of course, one of the occasions where Ki-Adi-Mundi was wrong about something yet again. Getting close to the end of our list for today, we have Mace Windu. Now, Windu doesn't need much of an introduction. Serving as Master of the Order in the years before the Clone Wars, Mace Windu was considered one of the most powerful Jedi. He was also really great at the self-control aspect of being a Jedi, being one of the calmest and most collected Jedi in the Order, especially where the movies are concerned. If you don't know what he looks like, you'll definitely spot him by his purple lightsaber, which sets him apart from pretty much anyone who wields lightsabers. Despite being a senior and high-ranking member of the Jedi Order, Mace Windu was never scared to risk his life on the battlefield. That helped give him a very rounded sense of things as they stood on the ground, which is important for someone who rules on complex political matters. One example of his willingness to get his hands dirty was masterminding the mission to cleave the Sheev, and while it cost the lives of his partners, he almost arrested Palpatine. Too bad Anakin switched to the dark side just then. Up next, we've got to include Obi-Wan Kenobi on this list. Obi-Wan may have technically given the Star Wars universe Darth Vader, but he was a vital member of the Jedi Council before that. Joining the Council after the Battle of Geonosis, the Council benefited a lot from Obi-Wan's wisdom and level-headedness. Despite being younger than some of his peers on the Council, he quickly gained their respect. As a member of the Jedi Council, Obi-Wan led the effort against General Grievous and the Separatists. He and Anakin took charge of the mission to rescue Palpatine from Grievous, and when it came to finish the general off, Obi-Wan took matters into his own hands. During Order 66, Obi-Wan escaped, and Yoda trusted him enough to actually take on the task of killing his own Padawan, Anakin. The only mistake Obi-Wan ever made, we suppose, was not making sure Anakin was actually dead on Mustafar. Speaking of Yoda, here he is at last. At 900 years old, there's no doubting Yoda's wisdom and experience. This was a Jedi who was wise and compassionate, while also boasting combat abilities and force control that few Jedi can claim to have. While Count Dooku was Yoda's Padawan, any and every Jedi that met him benefited from his wisdom. Crucially, he passed on that wisdom and training to Luke Skywalker as well, which was instrumental in helping bring the Galactic Empire to an end. Jedi Council or no, Yoda is one of the most important figures in the Star Wars universe. But that's it for today's video, my friends. Who is your favorite member of the Jedi Council? Let us know in the comments section below, and while you're down there, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next video.